My beloved child. There are moments when you think the stirring within your heart is a sign of unrest. But I tell you truly, it is the touch of mercy. I do not wait until you are completely lost before I speak, nor do I stand by and watch as your soul slowly grows cold. I awaken you while the flame is still smoldering. I stir you while you are still able to return. As it is written, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:15. For my call always comes while there is still hope, not when every door has already been closed. What you are feeling is not condemnation, but an invitation to return to true life before you become accustomed to darkness and begin calling it normal. And then, when you pause long enough to listen, you will realize that I never need noise in order to reach you. There are souls that have grown too weary from the clamor of the world, and so I choose to come in gentleness. Do you remember when the prophet Elijah fled into the wilderness? He had gone through great victories, yet he became so exhausted that he wanted to give up everything. And I did not come to him with a force that shook the earth and the heavens, but with a gentle breeze, a voice deep enough to touch the place where he still held on to faith. The Lord was not in the great wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19:11-12. Do you see? I do not need to overwhelm you in order to transform you. I only need to touch the deepest place within you that is still open. But my child, you do not always recognize my voice immediately. There are seasons when I speak through things you do not notice, a restlessness with no clear reason, a sense of peace appearing when nothing has changed, or even tears you cannot explain. Do not be quick to push those things away. For as it is written, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, Psalm 34:18. And so in the very moments when you are weakest, I am closest. What you call fragility, I call an open door. What you think is an unusual trembling, I call the beginning of an awakening. Look deeper, my beloved. When rains come within your soul, they are not meant to drown you, but to wash away the layers of dust you did not realize had gathered. There are habits you have kept that no longer carry life, prayers you have spoken that no longer carry fire, and steps you continue to take only because they have become familiar. I do not want you to live that way. This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Matthew 15:8. I am not seeking outward appearance. I am seeking truth in the hidden place. I do not need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest. And when you allow me to touch the parts of you that you have kept hidden, the light will begin to spread, not from the outside, but from within you. There is a story you need to remember, not because it is ancient, but because it is coming alive again within you. It is the story of the boy Samuel when he was still very young. In the quiet of the night, he heard a voice calling him, but he did not recognize that it was me. He ran to his teacher, thinking it was the voice of a human being, but after several times, he was taught how to listen rightly, not merely with his ears, but with a willing heart. And then he answered, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3:10. Do you see? I am still calling in the same way, not to frighten you, but to teach you to recognize my voice among countless other voices. The question is not whether I am speaking. The question is whether you are willing to stop and listen. Therefore, when you feel a gentle prompting pulling you away from the old way of living, do not resist it. When you find that your heart is no longer satisfied with the things that once seemed enough, do not turn back in search of familiarity. That is not loss. It is a sign that you are being led into something deeper. Awake, O sleeper, and Christ will shine on you. Ephesians You were called to walk in the light, a light that not only shows the way, but also transforms you. I know there are corners within your heart that you avoid, memories you do not want to look back on, and questions you have not yet dared to face. But my beloved child, I do not come to force you to open yourself. I come to remain there until you are ready. And when you open, even just a little, I will fill it with life. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. Revelation 3:20. I do not break in, I wait, not because I am weak, but because true love always honors freedom. Therefore, do not fear the awakening. Do not think that I am making you uncomfortable in order to punish you. No, I am drawing you out of the sleep of the soul, where you have grown used to dimness without realizing what you are lacking. I am calling you back to life, not merely to exist, but to live in my living presence. Do not remember me only as a memory. Walk with me as a reality. And when you begin to respond, even with just one small step, you will realize that I have never been far away. I was there in every breath you took, in every beat of your heart, in every moment when you thought you were alone. I have always been nearer than you could describe. And now, as you awaken, you will no longer live as before. You will live as one who is called, loved, and guided not by fear, but by a light that never goes out. My beloved child, there are things you sense in the depths of your soul that you have not yet been able to name. But I tell you, do not be quick to fear. The tears you see, whether they rise from your own heart or seem to fall from heaven's touch, do not carry the darkness of despair, but contain the light of a pure love that is at work. I never allow pain to become the final point. I use it as a doorway opening into healing. Therefore, when your heart trembles, when your eyes grow wet without knowing why, do not turn away. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4. That word is not a distant saying meant only to console. It is a truth already working the moment you allow yourself to be touched. There are seasons when I do not use words, not because I have withdrawn, but because words are not deep enough to reach the hardened layers within your heart. People may hear much and understand much, yet still remain unchanged, because there are things that cannot be resolved by reason alone. So, I choose another way. I let my mercy flow like water, seeping into the places you have never dared to open. I will give you a new heart and remove from you the heart of stone. Ezekiel 36:26. Do you see? I do not only teach you with words, I transform you from within, in the place no one but I can touch. And when that flow begins, you may find yourself softer than before, more easily moved, more likely to remember things that have passed. But my beloved child, that is not a sign that you are going backward. It is a sign that you are being healed. Before I establish something new, I always soften what is old. Before I build up, I cleanse. What you once buried deeply has not disappeared. It has only been waiting for the right moment to be touched in the right way. And when I touch it, I do not break you open in order to abandon you, but to remake you with new life. Remember the woman who came to the feet of Jesus with the alabaster jar of perfume. She did not come with eloquent words, nor with sharp reasoning. She came with tears, tears that fell upon his feet, that she wiped with her hair, offering a love that was not hidden. Those around her looked at her with judgment, but I saw true repentance and an open heart, and I said, her many sins have been forgiven, for she loved much. Luke 7:47. Do you see? Tears are not a sign of failure when they are placed in the right place. They become the language of restoration. There are tears of yours that you think no one has seen, but I have kept them all. You have counted my wanderings, put my tears into your bottle. Psalm 56, 8. None of your pain has been forgotten. No memory is too small for me to touch. And likewise, the tears I allow to touch you are never meaningless. They do not fall at random, but find their way to the very places that need healing, the corners you have closed off, the memories you have avoided, the empty spaces you have not yet dared to face. Therefore, do not avoid it when your heart begins to melt. Do not call it weakness. What you are going through is not collapse, but rebirth. A heart that can no longer feel is the truly fearful thing, but a heart that is becoming tender again is a heart that is alive. Rend your heart, and not your garments. Joel 2:13. I am not seeking outward display, I am seeking a soul that dares to open itself before me, that dares to let me touch the places that are not yet whole. My beloved child, when mercy and righteousness meet, a sacred movement is set in motion. I do not stand outside your life merely to observe. I step in to transform. The tears become a beginning, not an ending. And as you pass through that process, you will realize that you are no longer the same as before, not because you have tried to become stronger, but because you have been made new from within. Remain in that flow. My child, do not rush to find a way back to what was old. For what I am doing within you is not a temporary repair, but a renewal down to the root. And when the new season comes, you will not merely step into it, you will belong to it. With a heart that has been washed clean, made tender, and filled with my life. My beloved child, understand this deeply within your soul. No one enters into new life without passing through the process of being cleansed from within. I do not build something new upon an old foundation that still carries its cracks. Therefore, what you are experiencing, the tremblings, the tears, the unexpected changes are not signs of loss, but evidence of a quiet yet certain preparation. I am making a way by clearing away what hinders you. I am drawing you near by removing what has kept you distant. As it is written, return to me, and I will return to you. Malachi 3:7. So every movement you feel is not a drifting away, but a step closer into true union. And my child, do not panic when you see your life being dismantled piece by piece. I do not tear down in order to destroy. I tear down in order to rebuild. There are structures within your heart, thoughts you once believed, emotions you once leaned on, attachments you thought were necessary that are no longer strong enough to support the future I have prepared for you. If I allowed them to remain, you would live in a house that seemed safe, yet was actually cracking from within. Therefore, I allow what does not belong to tomorrow to leave today. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? Isaiah 43:19. But you cannot receive the new while your hands are still tightly holding the old, and while your heart is still carrying what has not yet been purified. There are rains that you want to avoid, but it is in that very rain that I am washing away the things you cannot see for yourself. Do not call this rain something frightening. Stand beneath it with an open heart, trusting that I know every detail of what I am doing. For as it is written, I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. Ezekiel 36:25. So what you are feeling is not weakness, but purification taking place. When the old dust is washed away, you will see more clearly, hear more clearly, and sense my presence more deeply in your life. Remember the story of Naaman, the powerful commander who carried within him a disease that no strength of his own could heal. He was told to go down into the Jordan River and dip himself many times, an action that seemed simple, even difficult for his pride to accept. But when he obeyed, when he stepped down into the waters and allowed himself to be washed, restoration took place. His flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. 2 Kings 5:14. Do you see? Healing does not come through holding on to what is old, but through humbling yourself and entering the process I have appointed. And so it is. With you, there are things that can only be renewed when you are willing to lay them down and step into the flow I am leading you into. Beloved child, when your heart begins to soften, when emotions that seem to have fallen asleep suddenly awaken, do not be quick to think that you are becoming weaker. That is, life returning. A hardened heart cannot feel, but a heart being touched knows how to tremble. I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36:26. I do not wound you so that you may collapse. I touch you so that you may truly live. The things you once avoided, I bring into the light not to shame you, but to free you from their power. Therefore, remain in this process. My child, do not rush back to what is familiar simply because you do not yet understand everything I am doing. There are seasons when you cannot see clearly, yet you can still trust. There are steps you do not understand, yet you can still walk forward. And when the rain is past, you will no longer be the person you once were. Your eyes will be brighter to recognize what is true. Your ears will be more sensitive to hear my voice among countless voices, and your heart will be more alive, no longer dry as it once was. Then one day, when you look back, you will realize that the very things you once wanted to avoid were the things that saved you. The tears you once did not understand were the bridge that brought you closer back to me, and you will no longer remember me merely as something from the past, but know me as a living presence in every breath you take. Whoever abides in me and I in him bears much fruit. John 15:5. And so the new life you are entering will no longer be a weary existence, but a flow filled with life, healing, and a light that never goes out. My beloved child, I do not call you only so that you may be comforted in ease, but so that you may awaken from the things that have become habits without life. There are times when you think I come only to console you, but I tell you truly, my love is deeper than soothing. I shape you so that you may stand in the right place. I correct you so that you will not continue drifting off course. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and chastises every son whom he receives. Hebrews 12:6. So correction is not a sign that I have turned away, but proof that I am intervening to keep you from going farther astray. If I only allowed you to remain comfortable without transforming you, that love would become shallow, and I never love you in such a superficial way. Therefore, when you see things in your life beginning to be shaken, do not be quick to call it loss. I do not dismantle in order to leave you empty. I dismantle in order to rebuild. Before a new house can be raised, the old foundation must be cleared. Before healing can take place, the wound must be touched. And before light can flood in, the eyes must pass through darkness in order to learn how to see clearly. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. You are passing through moments like these, not because you have been abandoned, but because you are being led into a deeper capacity to see. There are places within your heart that have grown hardened over the years, not because you wanted them to, but because you were once wounded, misunderstood, and disappointed to the point that you had to protect yourself. But my child, what once protected you can become a barrier in the new season. Therefore, I allow tears to touch those places, not to make you weaker, but to make you tender again. When the soil of your heart is softened, new seed can be sown. He who goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying his sheaves with him. Psalm 126:6. Tears are not the end, they are preparation for the harvest. Remember the story of Joseph. who was betrayed by his own brothers, sold like merchandise, falsely accused, and forgotten in the darkness of prison. If seen only through human eyes, it was a chain of injustices that could not be explained. But I did not allow anything to happen outside my plan, through the very things that seemed as though they would destroy him. I was forming within him a person steady enough to carry a greater responsibility. And when the appointed time came, he was able to say, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis 50:20. Do you see? What you call a wound, I can turn into a tool of preparation. What you think is the end, I use as a beginning. Therefore, do not fear the darkness you are walking through. Darkness is not the place where I leave you. It is the place where I work most deeply. In the light, you see clearly, but in the darkness, you learn to trust. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For great, you are with me. Psalm 23:4. You are not alone on this journey. Even when you cannot see, I am still there, guiding every step you take. There are relationships that have ended, doors that have closed, dreams that seem to have shattered, and you wonder why. But my child, not everything that leaves is a loss. Some things must leave so that new space can be opened. Some people enter your life not to remain, but to reflect the parts within you that need to be healed. Every misunderstanding, every wound, every time you were hurt, I do not overlook any of it. I use it all as tools to purify and shape you. Everything exposed by the light becomes visible. Ephesians 5:13. And so when I shine light into your heart, whatever does not belong to the truth will not be able to remain. Beloved child, I do not come to destroy you. I come to restore the true image I placed within you from the beginning. But for that to happen, what is not aligned must be brought low. False beliefs must be removed. Burdens that do not belong to you must be released. And in that process, you may feel difficulty, even pain. But remember, I am not doing this to make you lose yourself, but so that you may find yourself again in me. Therefore, stand firm in this moment. Do not turn back simply because you are not yet familiar with the new. Do not be afraid when everything is not yet clear. I know exactly what I am doing in your life. And when the light fully floods in, when everything is set back into its rightful place, you will look back and realize not one tear was useless. Not one moment was wasted. All of it has worked together to form the new person. You are becoming a person no longer befooled by the past, but guided by truth, healed by love, and made to stand firm in the light that never goes out. My beloved child, what I have begun in you does not stop at emotion or a passing moment, but is shaping you into someone who carries life outward. You are not only one who has just been touched, you are one who carries the mark of that touch. What once burned within your heart now becomes warmth in the words you speak. What once washed your soul clean now becomes a stream flowing through your steps. You will no longer walk like someone groping through darkness, but like one who knows clearly that they are being guided. You are the light of the world. Matthew 5:14. Not because you have lit yourself, but because my light has found a dwelling place within you. And my child, I do not think this is a heavy responsibility. It is the natural continuation of what I have done. When you have been made new, you cannot keep that life for yourself alone. As it is written, whoever believes in me, rivers of living water will flow from within them. John 7:38. And so that flow does not stop, is not held back, but always finds a way to spread outward. When you speak, those words will carry the weight of real experience. When you are present, your very presence will become a testimony, not because you have become perfect, but because you have allowed me to complete the work I began in you. Remember the Samaritan woman at the well. She came with a life full of empty spaces. But when she met me, she did not receive living water only for herself. She left the well, ran into the town, and told the people about what she had just experienced. And through that simple testimony alone, an entire community began to come toward life. Do you see? One who has truly been touched cannot remain silent forever. Many believed, because of the woman's testimony, John 4:39. So it will be with you. The thing I have done within you will become a bridge for others. Not through force, but through the natural vitality that flows out. But my beloved child, for that flow to remain pure, you must allow the process of cleansing to run its full course. Do not rise too quickly while I am still working deep within you. There are parts that must be separated, not to hurt you, but to return you to your true nature. The Word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit. Hebrews 4:12. I am discerning within you what is true and what is only a shell, what is life and what has long been dead. And when this separation takes place, you are not being diminished, but freed from what never truly belonged to you. There are people who fear this part of the journey because it touches the deepest hidden places. But I tell you, it is there that freedom begins. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. But before it sets free, truth must be revealed. I do not expose in order to shame you. I reveal in order to heal. I do not uncover in order to condemn. I uncover in order to restore the order that has been distorted within you. Therefore, remain in my presence, not to seek a pleasant feeling, but to allow the transformation to be completed. When heaven moves, the earth cannot remain the same. When the water from me touches the soul, what is old will no longer have a place to stand. And when my justice is at work, it does not come like a sword to destroy, but like light to set everything back into its rightful place. Everything exposed by the light becomes visible. Ephesians 5:13. And so, wherever the light shines, that place will be reordered according to the truth. Beloved child, you are no longer merely the one standing beneath that rain. You are becoming part of that very rain, a channel through which life, cleansing, and healing continue to spread. And as you walk in this, you will not need to strive to become something else. You only need to remain in me. For whoever abides in me bears much fruit. John 15:5. And that fruit does not come from human effort, but from life that is flowing. Be still for a moment, my child, not in order to stop, but in order to be deepened, not in order to escape, but in order to be completed. For when I finish what I have begun, you will step out not only with understanding, but with the power of a life that has been transformed, a life that carries light, carries truth, and carries my very presence into the place where you are sent. My beloved child, I know your heart often turns toward open doors, toward the blessings you are waiting for, and I have not ignored the prayers you have lifted up. But you must understand this clearly. I do not pour out fullness when the foundation is still cluttered. I do not place the new upon what has not yet been cleared away, because those old ruins would crack what I am building. Therefore, if you find yourself in a season of cleansing more than a season of receiving, do not call it delay. It is intentional preparation. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. 2 Corinthians 5:17. But in order to become truly new, the old is not merely overlooked, it must be recognized, released, and cleansed down to the root. There are things within you that you have grown so used to that you no longer see them, quiet thoughts that guide you, reactions formed from wounds, burdens you carry without realizing they do not belong to you. If I do not bring light into them, they will continue to control you silently. But when I allow them to be revealed, it is not to shame you, but to break their power. Everything exposed becomes visible under the light. Ephesians 5:13. The light does not come to condemn you, but to set you free. What is clearly seen can no longer bind you as it once did. Therefore, when you feel as though your life is being opened up, when the things you once kept hidden suddenly appear before your eyes, do not panic. I am not standing far away to judge you. I am very near enough to see every smallest trembling within your heart. I do not require you to cleanse yourself before coming to me. I call you to come exactly as you are, so that I may do that work for you. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. That rest is not an escape from the truth, but being held in the very midst of the truth, without condemnation, without rejection. Remember the story of Zacchaeus, the man who lived in gathering and accumulating, yet remained empty within. When I passed by, I did not call him out in order to humiliate him before the crowd. I simply said, "Today I must stay at your house." Luke 19:5. My very presence caused light to shine into his life, and when that light touched him, he willingly released what was distorted, restored what did not belong to him, and stepped into a new life. I did not force him to change. I entered in, and change took place. So it is with you. My beloved, I do not break you in order to abandon you. I enter in to restore you from within. Look at me with the eyes of a child, not with the fear of one being judged. When my righteous light touches the deepest places within you, I do not look at you with coldness, but with mercy and motion. I see the layers of dust from fear, from sin, from old memories that have made you withdraw into yourself, and my heart is moved. I do not turn away from those places, I draw nearer. I do not close the door, I open a way. Therefore, do not run from the light. Do not close your heart when you feel yourself being touched. What is happening is not destruction, but liberation. The things being revealed have not come to define you, but to leave you. And when that process is complete, you will realize that you are lighter, no longer carrying the things that once weighed you down. You will be clearer, no longer covered by the haze of the past. You will be freer, no longer controlled by what once remained hidden. Then, when the foundation has been cleansed, I will begin to rebuild, and what I build will not be fragile as before. It will be steady, enduring, and it will rightly reflect the image I placed within you from the beginning. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1-6. I do not leave unfinished what I have begun. I will complete it. My beloved child, remain in this process with trust. Do not rush to demand results while I am still preparing the foundation. For when I bless after cleansing, what you receive will not merely be something good for a passing season, but something lasting and enduring. And when you look back, you will understand. The very days when I was clearing things away became the foundation for every good thing you are standing upon today. A life no longer distorted, but made clear in love, in truth, and in the life I have ordained for you. My beloved child, when the hidden things deep within your heart begin to be brought into the light, do not be quick to turn against yourself in self-condemnation. I do not work in order to accuse you afterward. I never place a label on what I am healing. When I allow a part of you to be revealed, it is not so that you may carry it as a name, but so that you may be set free from it. There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ. Romans 8:1. So, if you still feel weighed down by accusation, you must recognize that it does not come from me. I do not speak to you with the voice of condemnation. I speak to you with the voice of restoration. Therefore, when tears come, do not hold them back as though they were something shameful. There are tears that are not a sign that you are weak, but a sign that you are letting go. When you stop trying to prove that you are still fine, when you no longer hold on to the image of always being right, your heart begins to open, and it is in that opening that grace can begin to flow in. God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble, James 4:6. Grace does not come to the place where you strain to maintain an outward appearance. It comes to the place where you become tender and honest with yourself before me. Remember the story of King David when he faced his sin. When the prophet Nathan brought what was hidden into the light, David did not try to justify himself, nor did he turn against himself in self-destruction. He said, "I have sinned against the Lord," 2 Samuel 12:13. And it was in that very confession that the door to restoration was opened. He was not defined by his mistake, but reshaped by true repentance. Do you see? Truth is not revealed in order to end you, but to begin something new within you. Beloved child, you need to understand justice again according to the way I see it, not according to the way the world has taught you. People often think justice means payment, punishment, something that pushes a person lower. But my justice is the action of love that sets everything back into its rightful place. When my justice is at work, I do not bring you low, I bring low the things that are pulling you off course. I do not take away your worth, I remove the false things that have covered your true worth. When my light shines in, the distorted voices within you will gradually be silenced. The beliefs, formed from wounds, will lose their influence, and you will begin to hear the true voice more clearly, the voice that has always been there, but was covered over. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Freedom does not come from avoiding the truth, but from standing in the truth without fear. You may feel as though everything within you is being reordered. Your thoughts, your emotions, your familiar reactions. That is normal. When you are set back into your rightful place in me, the things around you will also begin to change accordingly. Not because you are trying to control them, but because true order has been established from within. As it is written, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you." Matthew 6:33. When the center is put in its proper place, everything else will begin to find its place as well. Therefore, do not fear this process. Do not return to striving simply because you are not yet used to tenderness. What I am doing within you is not making you weaker, but making you truer. And when you become true, you become free, no longer pulled by passing emotions, no longer controlled by old memories, no longer bound by false voices. My beloved child, remain in that truth. Do not condemn yourself, but do not turn away either. Let the light continue to shine in. Let grace continue to flow. Let my justice continue to set everything within you back into order. And then you will realize you are not being made smaller by this process, but expanded in freedom, in clarity, and in the life I ordained for you from the very beginning. My beloved child, engrave this deeply into the innermost place of your soul, in me. Justice and love are never separated. They do not contend against each other, but move together like two heartbeats of one complete life. When my justice touches you, it is not to press you down, but to keep your feet from slipping off the right path. When my love covers you, it is not to indulge you in weakness, but to keep you from breaking apart in the process of being corrected. Mercy and truth have met together, righteousness and peace have kissed. Psalm 85:10. And it is within that harmony that you begin to understand what it means to stand firm without becoming hard, and to be tender without becoming weak. There were days when you were once pulled between two extremes, either afraid before what was wrong, or confused because you were not certain of what was right. But when my two streams converge within you, you will no longer be led by fear, but by holy reverence, a deep awareness that enables you to stand upright in the light without trembling. That reverence does not cause you to shrink back, but opens you wider to receive the truth. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, Proverbs 9:10. And from that place, every step you take will no longer be a reaction, but a leading. Therefore, after the rain has passed through your life, the rain that has cleansed, softened, and separated the old, learn to be still. Do not turn back to look at what has been burned away, for you no longer belong to it. Forgetting what lies behind and reaching forward to what lies ahead, Philippians 3:13. The things that once pulled you down will no longer have the right to hold you back. Instead, those very things will become the lift that carries you forward, because I have turned them into part of the completion within you. Remember the woman caught in sin, dragged into the middle of the crowd, facing condemnation from every side. When everyone was waiting for punishment, I said, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone," John 8:7. And as each stone fell to the ground, I did not deny the truth about sin, but neither did I condemn that person. I said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more," John 8:11. Do you see? Justice and love were present together, one revealing the truth, the other opening a new way. And you, too, are being led in that same manner. What is wrong is not denied, yet you are not imprisoned within it. Beloved child, I am not seeking from you an outward appearance of strength in order to prove your worth. What I seek is a heart that has been cleansed, that has learned to let go, that is ready to become tender again in my hands. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, Matthew 5-8. When your heart is pure, you are no longer blinded by old layers. When your heart is tender, you become easier to shape, and when you trust, you no longer have to strain to prove anything. There is a story you need to keep within your heart. When Job passed through deep loss and pain, he did not understand everything that was happening, but he still kept his heart turned toward me. And when I revealed myself to him, he said, "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you," Job 42-5. Do you see? The journey is not only meant to take away what is old, but to bring you into a deeper knowing, from hearing to seeing, from knowing to living. Therefore, walk in the rhythm of the Spirit, without needing to hurry, without needing to compare. One who has been purified no longer runs after self-validation, because they know what they are standing in. Glory is no longer a distant goal that you must reach. It becomes the atmosphere you live in, the breath you draw in each day. For in Him we live and move and have our being, Acts 17:28. My beloved child, remain in that holy union where justice does not make you afraid, and love does not make you weak. There, you will become whole, not because you have reached some standard, but because you have allowed me to complete what I began. And in that wholeness, you will walk gently, steadily, and clearly, a life reflecting me, no longer divided, but united in the light that never goes out. My beloved child, learn one thing that your soul will need throughout the journey ahead. Do not try to move for me, but learn to move in me. There is a very deep difference between these two things. When you try to run on your own in order to do something for me, you can easily fall into weariness, into the pressure to prove yourself, into the fear that you are not enough. But when you abide in me, you no longer have to strain to keep the rhythm, because my rhythm itself is carrying you forward. Abide in me, and I will abide in you. For apart from me, you can do nothing. John 15:4-5. You are not called to create the flow by yourself. You are called to step into the flow that already comes from me. When I move, you do not need to hurry ahead to open the way. When I speak, invisible things have already begun to be set in order before you are able to see them. Heaven does not operate in chaos, but in perfect agreement with my will. And you, the one I have touched, do not need to take on the role of controlling everything. You only need to listen and follow. Walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. Galatians 5:16. When you walk in this way, you will realize that the things that once made you struggle suddenly become lighter. Doors that once remained tightly shut begin to open. Distances that once seemed far away suddenly become near. There were times when you thought you had to strive harder in order to reach what I had promised. But my child, what I give is not a reward for striving, but the fruit of union. Remember the people of Israel when they stood before the Red Sea? They were not called to open the way by themselves, nor were they required to create the miracle. I only spoke, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. And when they obeyed, the sea parted. Do you see? Power does not come from your effort, but from walking with me. When you are in the right position, what I do will open the way before you. Therefore, do not return to the old way, the life driven by pressure to prove that you are worthy. You are no longer under that system. You have been cleansed, not so that you must try to become enough, but so that you may live in the truth that I have already affirmed you. You are my beloved Son, in you I am well pleased. Luke 3:22. When you understand this, you are no longer pushed forward by the fear of rejection, but drawn forward by the love that has established you. Beloved child, the union of love and justice in me now becomes the foundation for your walk. Love keeps you from breaking apart. Justice keeps you from drifting off course. And when you abide in that balance, you do not merely move forward, you move forward steadily. No longer with steps that waver according to emotions. No longer with decisions ruled by the past, but with a continuous flow of guidance. The path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, shining brighter and brighter until the full day. Proverbs 4:18. Remember Peter when he stepped down from the boat to walk upon the water. When his eyes were fixed on me, he walked upon what had once been impossible. But when he looked at the wind and the waves, he began to sink. This is not meant to frighten you, but to help you understand your position is not to control the circumstances, but to keep your gaze in me. And even when he began to sink, I still reached out my hand and took hold of him. So it is with you. I do not demand that you be perfect, but I invite you to remain in connection. Therefore, go, my beloved child, but go and rest. Do not mistake rest for passivity. Resting in me is an inward state where you act without tension, walk without striving, and live without being stretched by anxiety. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. From that place of stillness, every action of yours will carry clarity and power. Walk, but walk in the flow, not against it. Live, but live as one who has been washed clean, chosen, and sent. You are no longer the one searching for the path among many crossroads. You are walking in the path itself. And that path does not merely lead you to glory, it is glory unfolding through every step you take. My beloved child, from this moment on, you do not need to seek what is far away. Every breath you draw in, every step your feet take, every decision you make in union with me, all of it becomes a place where glory is revealed. For in him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. And when you live in that reality, you will realize your journey is no longer a search, but a revelation, a life that is reflecting me, living, continuous, and impossible to extinguish. My beloved child, remember this as an unchanging truth. The velocity of life in me is not measured by the noise around you, nor is it determined by the number of people walking with you, but by the purity of your own soul. When your heart is no longer pulled in many directions, when you no longer scatter yourself trying to please different voices, when your eyes are fixed on one single direction, the direction in which I am leading, then you no longer have to strive to move forward. You begin to be lifted. But those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Those wings are not something you create by effort, but the natural result of a heart that is aligned and trusting. There were times when you thought you needed more opportunities, more recognition, more favorable conditions in order to move faster. But I tell you, true acceleration does not come from pressure, but from obedience. When you obey, you do not only walk rightly, you go farther in a shorter time than you ever thought possible. For obedience places you in the right position. And when you are in the right position, the things I have prepared will come to you instead of you having to chase after them. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. You do not need to open the way by yourself. You only need to follow the way that has already been opened. Remember Philip when I called him to go down to the desert road. There was no crowd, no obvious sign of a great opportunity. But in simple obedience, he encountered the Ethiopian official, a meeting no human being could have arranged. And from there, a door was opened for an entire land. The Spirit said, "Go near and overtake this chariot." Acts 8:29. Do you see? When you obey, you do not merely go in the right direction. You step into intersections. I have already appointed places where timing, people, and purpose converge. Therefore, my child, do not compare your journey with anyone else's. There are people who are running quickly but are not moving in the right direction. There are others who seem slow, yet are walking with great precision in me. You are not called to measure yourself by outward speed, but by inward alignment. Run in such a way as to obtain the prize. 1 Corinthians 9:24. Yet that prize does not come from running faster than others, but from running the course I have set before you. There will be times when you find yourself slowing down, and you may become anxious. But my child, slowing down in me is not delay, it is adjustment. I am never hurried, as human beings are, but I am always precise. And there will also be times when you are carried forward faster than you expected. But do not let that make you self-assured, for it is not speed that defines you, but union with me. Whoever abides in me bears much fruit. John 15:5. True fruit does not come from strained effort, but from continual connection. Keep this question within your heart, not as a burden, but as a compass. Are you in the right place in me? When you are in the right place, everything else will begin to adjust. The doors that need to open will open. The connections that need to happen will happen. And the necessary steps will become clear. You will no longer feel as though you are trying to live rightly, but will recognize that right living is flowing through you naturally. Beloved child, when you enter that state, you will realize something you have never understood before. You are no longer the one pushing yourself forward. You become the one being carried, lifted when needed, held back when needed, led into the right place, at the right time, and for the right purpose. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Proverbs 16:9. Therefore, walk with a settled heart. Do not run ahead, and do not fall behind. Abide in me, For when you are rightly positioned in me, you will not lose your direction. You will not miss what is appointed, and you will not be late for the moment prepared for you. Everything will come at the right time, neither early nor late, and you will live not as one who is striving to reach something, but as one being led into what has already been ordained, a journey not controlled by pressure, but upheld by my love and truth in every step. My beloved child, I am not calling you into a chaotic journey or into the hurried rhythm of the world. I am calling you into a path measured by precision, where every step your feet take carries meaning, and every decision is joined to a flow that was appointed beforehand. The world glorifies speed, but in my kingdom, it is being in the right time, the right place, and the right manner that keeps you standing firm. If you are in the right position, you will not need to run fast, and yet you will still arrive where I have prepared. But if you drift off course, no matter how urgently you move, you will only be moving farther away from your own appointed meeting place. Therefore, guard your soul, as a conductor guards the rhythm of an entire symphony. One wrong note can throw the whole melody out of alignment. And my child, that misalignment does not always come from great decisions. Often it begins when you fail to listen to very small things. When I say, stop, do not continue simply because you have grown used to movement. When I say, go, do not delay simply because fear has not yet left you. What I open, no one can shut. And what I shut, no one can open. Revelation 3:7. Power is not found in your effort, but in your union with what I am doing. You must understand that obedience is not measured only by the actions you take, but also by the things you choose not to do. There are times when you think continuing is good, yet that very continuation is pulling you out of the flow I have set. In the velocity of glory, delay is not only the loss of a moment, it can become a drifting away from the rhythm I am leading. There is a time for everything, Ecclesiastes 3:1. And when you walk rightly within that appointed time, you will see everything fit together in a wondrous way. Remember Abraham when I called him to leave his homeland. I did not show him the entire journey. I simply said, go to the land I will show you, Genesis 12:1. He had no map, no detailed plan, but he had obedience. And it was that very obedience that placed him in the right flow of the promise. Do you see? You do not need to see the whole picture in order to take the right step. You only need to trust the one who is leading you. Beloved child, I am training you so that you will no longer live according to the fluctuations of emotion. Emotions can change with circumstances, and they can be influenced by the things around you. But my voice never goes astray. When you learn to recognize my voice, you will no longer be carried away by the waves outside you. My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me. John 10:27. Your safety is not found in understanding everything, but in recognizing my voice and following it. There will be times when I lead you through steps you do not yet understand. You may feel as though you are stepping into uncertainty, but my child, that is exactly where faith becomes alive. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5-7. Faith does not require you to see clearly before you step. Faith gives you strength to step because you know I have gone before you. Therefore, do not be afraid when you do not have every answer. Do not stop simply because you have not yet seen the whole picture. I do not require you to understand everything. I invite you to trust completely. And when you trust, every step you take will become precise, not because you are perfect, but because you are in me. My beloved child, slow down if you need to, but do not fall out of rhythm. Move forward when I call, but do not run ahead. For in me, no step is meaningless. No movement is wasted. Everything is being woven into a complete picture, a journey in which every step you take is placed in the right place. at the right time, and for the right purpose. And as you continue to walk in that precision, you will realize something. You no longer have to find the way by yourself. You are being led, not vaguely, but with guidance that is clear, certain, and full of love. And in that very leading, you will stand firm, not shaken by the speed of the world, but kept steady in the rhythm of glory I ordained for you from the beginning. My beloved child, walk with a holy fear, not the kind of fear that makes you shrink back, but a deep reverence that causes you to listen to every movement of heaven. When you live in that reverence, you no longer act out of impulse or passing emotion, but from the awareness that every step you take carries a weight beyond what you can see. Fear the Lord and serve Him faithfully with all your heart. 1 Samuel 12:24. This fear does not take away your freedom. It keeps you in the right orbit when everything begins to accelerate. It protects you from drifting off course when opportunities come all at once, and keeps your soul from becoming distracted when many doors open at the same time. You must understand that you are no longer living in an ordinary reality. You are walking in a realm where even each small choice creates unseen ripples. A word you speak, a decision you make, the step you take or pause from taking all of it touches things your eyes have not yet seen. Therefore, I teach you not merely to live, but to live awake, not so that you may become tense, but so that you may become discerning. When you are in me, you will know when to speak and when to be silent, when to move forward and when to wait. And it is within that discernment that you will walk without losing your direction. Now rise, not by your own strength, but by the awareness that a new season is opening before your eyes. Take a deep breath and sense the change within your soul. The things that were once stagnant will begin to move. The doors that were once closed will slowly begin to open. And the things you once thought were over will be stirred again with new life. But my child, do not mistake this acceleration for an opportunity to display yourself. The velocity I give is not meant to lift up your name, but to complete what I have ordained. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. And you are standing precisely within that time, not early, not late, but exactly. Remember Esther when she was placed in her position. She did not enter the palace merely to enjoy her status, but to respond to a moment when an entire people needed her. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4:14. When the time came, she did not act in haste, nor did she delay in fear. She prepared, she listened, and then she stepped into the appointed moment. So it is with you. You have not been placed in this season merely to observe, but to fulfill what I prepared beforehand. Beloved child, when the pace increases, alignment becomes more important than ever. If you keep your heart in holy reverence, you will not be swept away by things that appear dazzling, yet are empty within. You will know what comes from me and what is only noise. Test the spirits, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. 1 John 4:1. Discernment will become a covering of protection for you in this season, so that you do not merely move quickly, but move rightly. Therefore, walk forward, but walk with watchfulness. Advance, but advance in union with me. Do not run ahead to seize what has not yet come into its time, and do not slow down when I have already opened the way. For when you walk in the right rhythm, you will not need to strive to hold everything together. My own flow will lift you and carry you onward. My beloved child, this season is not accidental. It has been prepared for a long time, and you have been prepared for it. The things that once seemed slow were not useless. They formed within you the endurance you needed. And now, as everything begins to move, you will not be overwhelmed, but will walk with certainty. Go, my child, but go with a heart full of reverence and trust. For you are no longer someone waiting for the appointed time. You are living within that very time. And as you walk in this truth, each step you take will not only move you forward, but will also open doors that have already been appointed at the right time, in the right place, and for the right purpose. I wrote for your life from the beginning. My beloved child, do not look back at what has already been washed clean, for I am not calling you to return to the place from which I have delivered you. Your past is no longer a refuge, nor is it a place where you are meant to rebuild your identity. It remains only as a testimony of my power, a place you may look back upon and recognize how deeply I have transformed you. If you keep searching for the old traces, you will dim the light that is opening ahead of you. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. The new thing I am doing is not found in what you have grown used to, but in what you dare to step into by faith. There were seasons you passed through that seemed filled only with tears and silence. You wondered why everything had slowed down, why the prayers seemed unanswered, why there were moments when you were so broken that you could no longer recognize yourself. But my child, not one moment in all of that was meaningless. I used every tear to cleanse, every silence to deepen, every breaking to open a new space within you. Those who sow in tears shall reap with joy. Psalm 126:5. What you thought was an ending, I turned into a corridor leading you to the place where you stand today. Remember Lot when he was pulled out of Sodom? I spoke clearly, do not look back, Genesis 19:17. But when his wife turned to look behind her, she became trapped between two worlds, no longer belonging to the old place, yet not fully entering the new. Do you see? Looking back is not merely an action, it is a bondage. It holds you in the very thing from which I have delivered you. Therefore, I speak to you gently, yet clearly. Do not turn back, not because I fear you will remember, but because I want you to be free to move forward. Beloved child, the place where you now stand is no longer a place of memory, but a place of presence. You are no longer merely hearing about glory, you are beginning to walk in glory. And that glory is not some distant thing you must strive to reach. It is the atmosphere I am opening around you, the flow into which you are being placed. For in him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. When you live in me, you do not need to return to the past to find meaning. Meaning is being revealed in the very steps you are taking now. At times, you may still feel pulled back toward what is past old memories, familiar emotions, unanswered questions. But, my child, do not let those things lead you backward. Let them become evidence of how far you have been carried. No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Luke 9:62. You are no longer the old person who must return to the old life. You have been changed so that you may enter the new. Therefore, move forward with a light heart. Do not carry what I have already removed from you. Do not try to understand again what I have already brought to an end. Open your heart to what I am beginning. For the new does not require you to understand everything before you step. It only requires you to trust enough to step. And as you step, you will see that everything you have gone through, every tear, every silence, every breaking has been woven into a firm path beneath your feet. My beloved child, you are no longer standing before glory as an observer. You are in it, and every step you take from here is no longer a search, but a revelation, the revelation of a life that has been transformed, made new, and is now reflecting my light in a living way. Keep going. My child, do not look back, for what lies ahead of you is not merely the future, it is the very thing I ordained for you from the beginning, unfolding through each step, each breath, and each rhythm of your life. My beloved child, When emotions that seem to have fallen asleep suddenly rise within your heart, do not see this as failure, and do not hastily condemn yourself as weak. There are underground streams that only reveal themselves when the ground is opened, and there are pains that only step out of the darkness when the soul is ready enough to be healed. I do not bring those memories back to make you collapse, but so that you may see they no longer have the authority to rule over you as they once did. Clear, what once made you tremble is now being placed under my light, and that light does not come to shame you, but to set you free. For it is written, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. Do you see? When what is old is brought before the light, it is not a sign that the darkness has become stronger, but evidence that the light is entering more deeply within you. I know there are times when you want to bury everything very deeply, to lock the rooms within your heart and tell yourself that if you simply stop remembering, then you will have peace. But my child, true peace is not found in forgetting by your own strength. It comes when what once wounded you no longer controls the way you love, the way you trust, and the way you continue forward. There are inner doors that are not closed by running away, but by healing. There are wounds that are not healed by covering them with strong words on the outside, but by allowing me to touch the most tender place within. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. Ezekiel 36:26. That word does not speak merely of a surface-level change, but of the hidden work in which I remove the hardened layers, the long-held fears, the echoes of sorrow, and replace them with my gentle life. Do not be afraid of tears. My beloved, tears are not always a sign of breaking. Sometimes they are the way the soul breathes out after a long season of having to hold itself together. When you weep before me, you do not lose your dignity. On the contrary, you become more truthful, softer, and near to me. David once cried out to me from the depths, "You number my wanderings. Put my tears into your bottle." Psalm 56:8. Not one of your tears falls without my knowing it. Not one of your sighs sinks into emptiness. I hold even the things you cannot put into words, because before you understood your own pain, I had already seen it from its very root. Remember Hannah, the woman who carried a silent sorrow in her heart so deeply that when she prayed in the temple, her lips moved, but her voice could hardly be heard. Others who looked at her could misunderstand her, but I heard that wordless cry. She did not need to express herself perfectly in order to be understood by me. She only needed to pour out her heart before me, and right in the place where she thought she was only breaking, I was preparing a new birth. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. 1 Samuel 2:6. Hannah's song afterward became proof that pain placed in my hands does not end in loss, but can become the beginning of something holy. You are the same. My child, what you are feeling today is not necessarily a sign of collapse. It may be the sound of a new part of your life being brought forth within you. Therefore, when memory returns, do not quickly drive it away as an enemy. Bring it before me as one would bring a cracked vessel into the hands of the potter. You do not need to repair every broken piece by yourself. You do not need to explain completely why you hurt. You only need to allow me to be present in that place. As the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand. Jeremiah 18:6. I know which place needs to be softened, which place needs to be reshaped, and which place needs to remain as a mark of grace. There are things I do not erase from your memory, but I draw the poison out of them, so that later, when you remember, you will no longer be pulled back into the old chains, but will only see that I carried you through by mercy. My beloved child, do not mistake the rising of emotions for the retreat of the soul. Many times, what you call "I am hurting again" is actually the moment when the final root of pain is being pulled up. Just as a gardener must touch the soil, must dig deeply, must expose the roots hidden beneath the surface before the garden can truly be cleansed. So I am tending the garden within your heart. My Father is the vine dresser, John 15:1. And I do not care carelessly for what belongs to me. I do not merely want you to appear peaceful. I want you to be truly free. I do not merely want you to stand firm before others. I want you to rest in peace, even when no one is watching. Perhaps in that process, you will find yourself more sensitive, more easily moved. And at times it may seem as though the old things are still too near. But hear me speak gently to you. Tenderness is not dangerous when you place it in my hands. A heart of stone is the place that finds it hard to receive life, but a heart that can feel, that can weep, that can tremble before the truth, is the very place where grace can flow through. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4. I do not blame you because you still feel. I come to comfort you right within that feeling, so you may learn that emotions can rise without needing to pull you under. Memories can appear without still stealing away your present. From today onward, stop fighting against yourself as though your heart were a traitor. Your heart has endured many things, has tried to survive through seasons that were not easy to name, has silently borne pain when you did not yet know how to ask for help. Now I do not come to rebuke it, but to bind it up. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. When I touch you, I do not touch you superficially. I go to the very place where you first began to fear, to the place where you learned to defend yourself, to the place where you thought you had to be strong alone. And there, I whisper, you no longer have to live as one abandoned, for I am with you. Let this process unfold in peace. Do not force yourself to be healed in a single day, and do not measure healing by whether you never remember again. Just healing is when you remember and are no longer torn apart, when you face it and are no longer defined by it, when you pass through it and no longer have to carry the chains of former days. I am leading you out from the silent rule of pain and into the freedom of one who is loved. And when I complete what I have begun in you, you will look back, not with bitterness, but with holy wonder, because he who began a good work in you will complete it. Philippians 1:6. My beloved child, be at peace. What is being opened is not meant to drown you, but to be closed by grace, not so that you may relive the pain, but so that from now on, pain will no longer live in your place. My beloved child, there are chains that make no sound, yet they have rested upon your soul for a very long time. They do not always appear as an obvious prison. Sometimes they take the form of the habit of enduring, of a forced smile, of the words "I am fine" spoken while within you. Everything is trembling. I have seen the years in which you learned to make yourself smaller so as not to make anyone uncomfortable. Learn to swallow your tears to preserve a fragile peace. Learn to accept blame even when that blame did not belong to you. But today, I draw near to you not to reproach you for having been silent for too long, but to gently remove from you the old garment of shame. For my word has declared, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:32. That truth does not come to throw you into confusion, but to restore you to the dignity I placed within you from the beginning. There were times when you thought that love meant allowing others to step across your boundaries, that forgiveness meant continuing to remain in the place that wounded you, that gentleness meant never being allowed to speak. But my child, that is not the holy gentleness I teach. Gentleness is not allowing your soul to be crushed. Love is not abandoning the truth. Forgiveness is not handing back the right to hurt you to the one who wounded you. Speaking the truth in love, Ephesians 4:15. For in my kingdom, love and truth do not oppose one another. They hold hands. Love without truth becomes a kind of concession that leaves you weary, while truth without love becomes a sword that wounds others. I am teaching you to step into that holy balance, tender without being weak, kind without losing yourself, gracious without allowing darkness to take advantage of your goodness. I know the old patterns told you that you had to endure in order to be considered good, that you had to remain silent in order to be loved, that you all. But harmony built upon the suffocation of a soul is not the peace that comes from me. My peace does not require you to bury your voice alive. My peace does not force you to betray the truth so that others may remain comfortable. God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. 1 Corinthians 14. Sanchersan. True peace does not cover what is distorted with a beautiful cloth. True peace brings what is distorted into the light, so it can no longer rule in darkness. Therefore, when you begin to recognize that the things you once accepted were never healthy, do not be afraid. That is not the rebellion of your heart, it is the awakening of your soul. Remember the woman who had been bent over for 18 years. The woman who had become so accustomed to looking down at the ground that perhaps she no longer remembered what it felt like to lift her face toward the sky. Many people may have grown used to seeing her in that posture, used to treating her crookedness as a normal part of her life. But when the Lord Jesus saw her, he did not call her by the name of her infirmity, nor did he define her by what had bound her. Instead, he said, "Woman, you are loosed from your infirmity." Luke 13:12. Then he laid his hands on her, and she stood up straight and glorified God. My child, that story does not speak only of a body being healed. It also speaks of a soul being restored to its rightful posture. There are things that have made you bend down for too long: fear, self-blame, shame, false obligation, and the words others imposed upon you. But I did not create you to live forever in a posture of being weighed down. I call you to stand upright in grace, not so that you may become proud, but so that you may remember you are my beloved child. From the deepest hidden place, I am touching the sharp edges you once turned against yourself. I have seen the times you silently condemned yourself, wondering whether everything happened because you were not good enough, not wise enough, not gentle enough, not patient enough. I have seen how many times you carried a weight that did not belong on your shoulders, as though the storm would quiet down if only you accepted the blame. But my child, you do not need to continue playing the role of a sacrifice for disorders you did not create. Each one shall bear his own load, Galatians 6:5. And I do not require you to carry another person's moral responsibility in their place. There are things that belong to their maturity, their choices, and their healing. You may love, you may pray, you may forgive, but you must not lose your soul in the effort to repair what only I can touch at the root. Therefore, when I open your eyes to recognize the patterns that have passed through many generations, do not be terrified. There are fears that have been handed down like an inheritance. There are forms of silence that have been regarded as obedience. There are kinds of endurance that have been praised as virtue. But not everything that has been passed down comes from me. I am placing within you a new discernment, so you may know what true love is and what is merely dependency clothed in sacrifice. Test all things, hold fast what is good, 1 Thessalonians 5:21. You do not need to despise the past, but neither must you continue repeating it. You can honor those who came before you and still refuse to carry their chains onward. You can have compassion for their story and still choose a healthier path for your own life. Do not be afraid when your voice begins to return. At first, it may tremble. At first, you may feel guilty simply for saying what you need, setting a boundary, or admitting that you have been hurt. But my child, trembling does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes, when someone has just stepped out of darkness, the light may feel blinding, but that does not make the light dangerous. I have not given you a spirit that shrinks back before every pressure, but a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. That strength does not need to be loud. It may be a calm sentence, "This is not right." It may be a quiet decision, "I will no longer allow myself to be treated this way." It may be a holy step back to protect what I am healing within you. I am not telling you to become so hardened that you can no longer feel compassion. But neither do I want your compassion to be turned into a door that is always open for harm to return. Let me teach you the boundaries of wisdom. Even the Lord Jesus, the one full of mercy, did not entrust himself to everyone, because he knew what was in man. John 2:24-25. Do you see? Perfect love is not the absence of discernment. On the contrary, love that comes from me always walks together with clarity. There are places where you are called to remain and heal. There are places where you are called to leave and preserve life. There are people you are invited to forgive in your heart, but not necessarily to restore to the same place of intimacy as before. Wisdom does not diminish love. It protects love from being distorted. Today, I pronounce my hand upon the part of your heart that had grown accustomed to bowing down, and I speak new life over you. You no longer have to punish yourself for what is past. You no longer have to apologize for your existence. You no longer have to make the light I placed within you smaller so that others may feel more comfortable in their darkness. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty by which Christ has made us free. Galatians 5:1. To stand fast does not mean to fight back with bitterness. To stand fast means not returning to the old yoke. I am teaching you to walk with a soft heart but a firm spine, with wide mercy but clear eyes, with true forgiveness but no longer offering yourself up to the cycles that exhaust you. And my beloved child, hear this as the deepest comfort. You are not called to continue a legacy of sorrow. You are called to become the place where it stops, where others pass down fear. You will learn to sow peace, where others use silence to hide wounds. You will use truth to open the door to healing, where others confused endurance with holiness. You will learn the kind of holiness that knows how to love while still protecting what is precious. I am with you in every step of this relearning. I will not force you to grow by the rod. I will lead you by my kindness. For he will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs with his arm. Isaiah 40:11. Be at peace. My child, your voice is returning. Your dignity is rising. And the invisible chains that once bound you to shame are falling beneath your feet in my light. My beloved child, there are seasons when I do not call you to rise with thunder, but with a quiet clarity within your soul. You begin to recognize what is no longer healthy, what no longer belongs to you, what was only placed upon you by fear, by habit, by old patterns that have lived too long in the darkness. Therefore, when I tell you to stand up, I am not calling you to put on coldness or hardness, but I am inviting you to step into gentle uprightness. Let your heart remain tender before me, but do not let that tenderness become a place for others to trample upon. Let your mouth speak the truth, but do not let that truth become an arrow of bitterness. For it is written, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. 2 Corinthians 3:17. The freedom I give does not make you aggressive. It makes you clear-sighted. It does not cause you to stand against everyone. It helps you stop standing against your own soul. I know you once thought that if you stepped out of what was familiar, you would become a betrayer, that if you spoke what you truly felt, you would break everything apart, that if you chose a healthy boundary, you would lose love. But my child, True love does not require you to disappear in order to be kept. True peace is not built by burying your voice beneath the soil of silence. There are things you have called stability that were actually only cages decorated with memory, obligation, and the fear of disappointing others. I am not pulling you out from there so that you may drift aimlessly, but so that you may learn to walk as one who is being led. If the Son sets you free, you shall be free indeed. John 8:36. That freedom is not cutting ties with contempt, but leaving with peace, knowing that what I am opening before you is greater than what has kept you there. Imagine it, my beloved, a young bird born within the warmth of a nest. At first, that place is a gift. It shields the bird from rain, protects it from the wind, and holds it close in the days when it is still weak. But at the appointed time, if the nest remains forever soft, the bird will never know the sky that is waiting for it. And so, there are moments when the place that was once a refuge begins to feel narrow, when dry branches begin to make it uncomfortable, and when the old sense of safety no longer brings peace as it once did. In the bird's eyes, that discomfort may look like loss, but in my wisdom, it is the calling of its wings. As an eagle stirs up its nest so that its young do not fall asleep in small safety, the Lord alone led his people. Deuteronomy 32:11-12, with a love that knows when to shelter and when to urge forward. You are the same, my child. The suffocation you are feeling is not always punishment. Many times, it is a sign that grace is inviting you to grow. There are things that once wounded you, but I will not allow them to become the final sentence over your life. Betrayal may have awakened you. Injustice may have caused you to stop idealizing places that no longer fit. Being pushed aside may have opened your eyes to see that I never intended for you to live forever on that narrow margin. You thought you were being rejected, but I was setting you apart. You thought you were being abandoned, but I was moving you away from a land that could no longer nourish the life within you. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Psalm 18:19. That spacious place sometimes begins with a closed door, a changed relationship, a truth being revealed, or a pain that makes it impossible for you to continue pretending that everything is still normal. Remember Joseph, the son of Jacob. He was sold by his own brothers, pulled away from his father's house, and thrown into a journey that, in human eyes, seemed filled only with injustice. If Joseph had looked at everything through the eyes of his wound, he could have called his life a long chain of betrayals. But I saw beyond the pit, beyond the chains, beyond the prison. I was preparing a man who could stand in a palace without being corrupted by power. A man who could save his entire family in the day of famine. And when the appointed time came, Joseph spoke a holy word. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50:20. My child, I do not call evil good, but I have the authority to turn evil into a bridge leading to a purpose that darkness cannot understand. Therefore, do not look at the old collisions only as bruises from the past. Look at them as the places where I awakened what had been sleeping within you. Without that narrowness, you might have thought the nest was the whole sky. Without that pain, you might have continued calling endurance faithfulness, calling self-loss love, calling silence peace. But I love you too much to let you spend your whole life in a place too small for what I have placed within you. All things work together for good to those who love God. Romans 8:28. Not because all things are good in themselves, but because my hand can gather even the broken pieces and build a new path. You do not step out of the past by denying it. You step out by recognizing that I was there, even when you thought you were alone. Now, as you learn to speak with truth, speak as one who has been healed in part. not as one seeking to wound others in return for the pain you once carried. As you walk, walk as one who has been set free, not as one who must prove your worth before those who failed to see it. When you establish boundaries, do so with a pure heart. For above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flow the springs of life. Proverbs 4:23. Boundaries are not walls of hatred. They are the fence around the holy garden I am restoring within you. Not everyone is permitted to enter the place where I am healing you. Not every voice is permitted to sow seeds in the soil of your heart. And not every call is a command you must answer. I am doing more within you than healing a few wounds. I am creating a new current within you, so that where fear was once passed down, it will stop with you. Where silence was once passed down, it will be replaced with truth. Where shame was once passed down, it will be replaced with dignity. You were not born to repeat every story that came before you. You are called to become the place where grace redirects the spiritual bloodline of a family, a generation, and a future. I have set before you life and death. Therefore choose life. Deuteronomy 30:19. Each time you choose life, you are not choosing only for yourself. You are opening another path for those who will look at you and understand that it is possible to live without being ruled by the old chains. So then, my beloved child, do not be afraid when the old nest no longer feels as soft as it once did. Do not hastily conclude that discomfort is a sign I have abandoned you. There are times when I, myself, am making that place unable to hold you any longer. So you will not continue lingering in a form of safety whose season has ended. I am not destroying you. I am opening your wings. I am not pushing you into emptiness. I am teaching you that beneath your wings, my breath is lifting you up. When I fall, I will arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord will be a light to me. Micah 7:8. Rise in clarity, speak with kindness, and walk in freedom. The past may have explained one part of your story, but it no longer has the right to define your name. I call you restored, a bearer of light, a waymaker, one who rises above the place that once wounded you, and one who will see a sky wider than every nest that ever tried to hold you back. My beloved child, what I am doing within you is not only opening your eyes so you may recognize the distortions around you, but something even deeper. I am leading you back to the true self I placed within you from the beginning. There were seasons when you thought healing was only about clearly seeing who had hurt you, who had crossed your boundaries, who had planted burdens in your heart that never belonged to you. But I tell you that such recognition is only the threshold. Beyond that threshold is a greater restoration. You begin to realize that you were not born to preserve a false harmony by losing the voice of your soul. You were not created to become a container for every mistake, every outburst of anger, every lack of maturity from others. You are my child, and it is written, the Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. Romans 8:16. When you know that you belong to me, the old accusations no longer have enough authority to name you. There is a great difference between someone who is merely trying to survive each day and someone who begins to walk with the awareness of being sent. Before, you may have lived as one who always had to stay on guard, always had to anticipate the emotions of others, always had to shrink back to avoid disturbing everything. You thought that if you stayed silent a little longer, endured a little more, accepted the blame a little more, then everything would become calm. But that calm was not the peace I give. It was only a fragile stillness on the surface of the water, while beneath it, chains still remained. Now I am bringing you out of that way of existing. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. You are not merely being comforted so you can return to who you used to be. You are being renewed so you can step into a way of living you once never dared to believe was meant for you. I am shaping you with the wisdom of one who knows the material within you. Not every collision is meant to wound you. There are collisions I use to reveal the strength that has been buried beneath many layers of fear. Think of a sword in the hands of a blacksmith. Before it shines, it must pass through fire. Before it becomes sharp, it must endure the blows of the hammer. Before it is entrusted to its purpose, its rough places must be refined away. But the craftsman does not strike the steel because he hates it. He strikes because he sees the glorious form hidden within. You are the same. My child, the marks you once wanted to hide are not proof that you are damaged. They are evidence that you have passed through fire and still remain in my hands. As the word has declared, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Isaiah 48:10. The fire did not consume you. It only revealed what could not be burned. Remember Gideon, who once hid in the winepress to thresh wheat because he feared the Midianites. In his own eyes, he was small, his family was weak, and his future was threatened. But when my angel came to him, the first word did not call him by his fear, but by the identity I saw. The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor. Judges 6:12. Do you see? I did not wait for Gideon to become confident before I called him. I called him first, so my word could awaken the true man buried beneath his trembling. In the same way, I do not wait until you are completely without wounds before I entrust you with authority. I call you in the process of healing, so that the very act of walking in obedience becomes the place where you realize you are stronger than what you once believed. Therefore, do not despise the places where you were once wounded. In my hands, those very places can become a source of discernment. You will recognize which pain needs to be embraced with compassion, and which pain must no longer be allowed to rule your decisions. You will know when to be silent so you can listen to me, and when to speak so that the truth is not buried. You will know that forgiveness is not returning to the old circle, and love is not placing your soul beneath the feet of abuse. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth. Ephesians 6:14. For the one sent by me does not walk in confusion. You no longer react merely because a wound has been touched. You learn to act from the place that has been illuminated by my word. That is the sign of maturity, not that you no longer have emotions, but that emotions no longer sit upon the throne of your life. I am teaching you to understand that true influence does not begin with controlling others, but with being governed by me from within. When you are no longer pulled by the strings of the past, when you no longer allow shame to control your voice, when you no longer chase after pleasing everyone in order to feel safe, then your presence begins to carry a different weight. You enter a room not to ask permission to exist, but to carry peace. You speak not to defeat anyone, but to restore order. You leave not because of hatred, but because you know what is no longer permitted to drain the life I am restoring within you. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. James 3:18. A peacemaker is not someone who covers up everything that is wrong, but someone who brings truth into chaos with a heart that has been purified. From you, a different rhythm can begin. Perhaps before you, many people lived in fear without knowing how to name it. Perhaps they passed down silence as a lesson in survival, shame as a form of discipline, and endurance as the standard of goodness. But I am placing within you a new current. You do not need to condemn those who came before you, for many of them only lived according to what they themselves had been taught. But neither do you need to keep carrying that yoke as though it were a holy inheritance. Behold, I have put my words in your mouth, to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. Jeremiah 1:9-10. There are things that must be rooted out so new life can have room to grow. There are patterns that must be called by their true name so that the next generation will no longer regard chains as normal. My beloved child, stand up in this awareness, but stand with humility. The authority I give is not so that you may stand above others, but so that you may no longer live beneath what I have spoken over you. The light I placed within you is not meant to blind the wounded, but to light the way for those who are also searching for a way out. Some will gain courage because they see you speak the truth without becoming bitter. Some will learn how to set boundaries because they see you do so while still loving. Some will believe that healing is real because they see that you no longer live as a copy of old pain. You are the light of the world, Matthew 5:14. And that light does not need to shout in order to have power. It only needs to keep burning in faithfulness. Therefore, walk as one whom I have called by name. Do not let the past hold the map of your future anymore. Do not let those who once failed to see your worth become the only mirror into which you look. Do not let the mistakes of others continue writing your identity. I am making you steadfast. Not steadfast in a dry and hardened way, but steadfast like a tree planted by streams of water, which brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither. Psalm 1:3. You will continue to grow. You will continue to learn how to use your voice with grace. You will continue to discover that the freedom I give not only rescues you from what is old, but also sends you forth to open a new way. And as you walk with me, what has never been seen in your lineage will begin to sprout from your very life, a legacy of truth, peace, authority, love, and light no longer swallowed by the old darkness. My beloved child, quiet your heart and look back upon the path through which I have led you, not with the eyes of the wound, but with the eyes of revelation. There were days when you thought you had been pushed down to the lowest place, as though every promise had been buried beneath the cold soil of disappointment. There were closed doors that made you think you had been rejected, people turning away that made you believe your worth had been denied. Seasons of waiting that stretched so long your soul began to wonder whether I still remembered you. But my child, my silence is not my absence. Delay in my hands is not forgetfulness. There are things I did not open immediately, not because you were left behind, but because the timing needed to mature. Your identity needed to become firm, and the road before you needed to be prepared in places you could not see. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me, Psalm 138:8. That word is not only a gentle comfort, but an assurance that no part of your journey lies outside. My faithful hand, remember that I never call what is wrong right, nor do I ever tell you to smile before pain as though it were not real. I clearly see the injustices you have endured, the words that pierced your heart, the times you were misunderstood, forgotten, pushed outside the place where you once thought you belonged. I do not deny your tears in order to make the story appear more beautiful, nor do I justify the immaturity, betrayal, or cruelty of anyone. Woe to those who call evil good, and good evil, Isaiah 5:20. So understand this, I call darkness, darkness. But I am also the one who has authority to kindle light right in the place where darkness thought it had won. What others did may have been wrong, but my redeeming power is greater than their wrongdoing. What happened may have been painful, but it is not stronger than the purpose I have placed upon your life. There are wells in your life that do not take the shape of earth and stone, but of circumstances that made you feel lowered, trapped, and separated from everything familiar. When you were in them, your vision became narrow. You could see only the walls around you and the small piece of sky above. But I saw farther. I saw the road beyond the old place, the door you did not yet know, the positioning that pain was unknowingly opening. Joseph did not understand everything when he was taken away from his father's house, did not understand everything when his robe was taken from him, did not understand everything when the promise seemed to contradict his circumstances. But I did not allow the pit to become his grave. I used it as the beginning of a movement. The Lord was with Joseph, Genesis 39:2, not only when he was lifted up, but also when he was in the low place. My child, my presence is not measured by how comfortable your circumstances feel. Many times, the very place where you thought you had been cast down is the place where I begin to lift you in a deeper and more hidden way. And when you are brought through seasons in which no one recognizes your value, do not hastily conclude that your dignity has been lost. Your dignity does not lie in the hands of the one who sold you, the one who forgot you, the one who misunderstood you, or the one who turned away from you. Your dignity rests in the word I have spoken over you. There are people who only see you through a single moment, through a role, through something they want you to serve for them. But I see the entire map I have written within your soul. I have called you by your name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. When you belong to me, no rejection has enough authority to erase your name from the intention of heaven. Others may remove a garment from you, but they cannot remove your calling from you. They may push you out of a room, but they cannot push you out of the plan I have ordained. Let me remind you of Moses, an infant placed in a basket upon the waters of the Nile. In his mother's eyes, that may have been a heart-rending moment, an act of letting go through tears, a choice that seemed full of danger. But in my sovereignty, that small basket was not a sign of abandonment. It was the vessel that carried the child to the very place he needed to be. The river may have looked like a threat, but I turned it into a pathway. The palace may have looked like a foreign place, but I used it to prepare the one who would lead my people out from the yoke of slavery. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents, Hebrews 11:23, and by my hand. What seemed fragile became the beginning of a great deliverance. Do you see? My child, there are seasons when you are placed into a current you did not choose. Yet I can still guide the basket of your life to the right shore of destiny. Therefore, do not view every movement as pure loss. There are places from which you are separated not to be humiliated, but to be protected from remaining too long in something too small. There are connections that are interrupted not because I hate you, but because I know that if you continue clinging to them, you will trade your calling for the comfort of familiarity. There are cracks that hurt you, but through them, you begin to see the light entering. There are times when you are forced to release, but through releasing, your hands become empty enough to receive what I am giving. All things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. That word does not mean all things are good in themselves. It means I am powerful enough to gather even what is broken, distorted, and unjust, and turn it into material for a path of redemption. But my beloved, be careful. Do not let the truth of redemption cause you to return and tolerate what has drained you. I can turn what is evil into good, but that does not make evil holy. I can heal the wound, but that does not mean the one who caused the wound is exempt from truth. I can use affliction to mature you, but I just tell you to call abuse love, neglect a trial, or manipulation responsibility. Hate evil, love good, establish justice in the gate. Amos 5:15. You are allowed to name what happened. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to walk away. And you are also allowed to believe that after all of it, I can still rebuild within you a life that is not defined by what others have done. Now, as you look back, I want you to see the connecting lines you could not see before. The moment that seemed like an ending may have been the beginning of positioning. The season of being forgotten may have been the hidden room where I refined you from the need to be recognized too soon. The place where you once wept may become a deep well of compassion. The place where you were betrayed may become a school of discernment. Not one tear is wasted when it is placed in my hands. For those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. Psalm 126:5. I am not hurried as human beings are, but I am never late. When the right door opens, you will understand that I was quietly connecting the scattered roads into a path with order, purpose, and grace. Therefore, stand firm in this pure faith. The things that happened are not allowed to rule your future, but in my hands, they can serve your growth. Others have not triumphed over you simply because they wounded you. Darkness has not triumphed simply because it once made you weep. The past has not triumphed simply because it left a mark. I am your Redeemer, and where I step in, even the broken pieces begin to have a new voice. Let me gather your story, not to erase every painful chapter as though it never existed, but to write over them a stronger testimony that you passed through the fire and were not consumed, passed through deep waters and were not swept away, passed through the low place and were still upheld by my hand. And then you will speak with a restored soul. That thing hurt, but it did not destroy you. That thing made you cry, but it did not steal the promise. That thing once seemed like night, but I caused the dawn to rise from the very place where you thought everything had come to an end. My beloved child, let your heart rest in this gentle yet powerful truth. When I tell you to entrust judgment back to me, I am not taking away your right to hurt, nor am I denying what you have endured. I am not telling you to be silent as though the wound never existed, nor am I asking you to call what is wrong right in order to appear noble. I am only drawing you away from the throne that pain wants to build within your heart, where you must guard justice day and night by your own strength, remembering every word, counting every wound, keeping every piece of evidence, as though if you let go, the truth would disappear. But my child, the truth is not lost when you place it in my hands. On the contrary, it is placed in the most righteous place, where there is no partiality, no blindness, no anger that distorts judgment. Vengeance is mine. I will repay. Romans 12:19 is not a word I use to sow fear in you, but a word I use to remove from your shoulders a burden you were never created to carry. When you release the right to judge, you do not become weak, you become free. I know there are times when you want everyone to fully understand what they have done, when you want them to feel some measure of the pain you once carried, when you want justice to come quickly like thunder to prove that you did not imagine it, that you were not too sensitive, that you were not wrong to hurt. I understand that cry, for I am the one who hears even the words that have not yet become sound. But if you hold tightly to anger as a weapon to protect yourself, little by little, it will not only point outward, it will turn back and weary your own soul. Anger may signal that something has been violated, but it cannot become the master of your life. Be angry, and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Ephesians 4:26. For I do not want your rightful emotion to become a long-term prison. I am not telling you to hurry and forget. I am teaching you not to let that thing rule you anymore. Remember David when he was hunted by Saul. David had many opportunities to use his own hand to end that injustice, and even those around him thought it was an opportunity given by heaven. But in the dark cave, when Saul was within reach, David did not allow his wound to turn him into someone like the one who had wounded him. He cut off the corner of Saul's robe, and even then his heart trembled before me, because he understood that justice cannot be born from a soul that has lost holy reverence. He said, "The Lord judge between you and me, but my hand shall not be against you. 1 Samuel 24:12. Do you see? My beloved, David did not deny Saul's wrongdoing, but neither did he let that wrongdoing pull him out of the nature I was forming within him. That is true authority, not having the strength to strike back, but having enough freedom not to let someone else's darkness control your response. Therefore, when I lead you through the old chapter, I do not merely wipe away your tears and then allow everything to return to the way it was before. I am establishing within you a new order, a new way of living, a new land where your soul is no longer suffocated by the old voices. There were things that were once allowed to repeat because you did not yet know how to name them, did not yet know how to set boundaries. They did not yet know that love does not require you to erase yourself. But now, the light has come, and what has been brought into the light no longer has the right to hide as it once did. Awake, you who sleep. Arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. Ephesians 5:14. You are awakening, not so that you may live in suspicion of everyone, but so that you will no longer be blind to what drains you. You are awakening, not so that you may become closed off, but so that you may know which doors should be opened with love and which doors must be guarded with wisdom. I am placing boundaries around you, not like cold walls, but like the fence of a vineyard that is being cared for. The gardener does not build a fence because he hates those who pass by. He builds it to protect the young fruit, to give the vine time to take root, so that the harvest will not be trampled by wild beasts. Your soul is the same. There were connections that once drew life out of you, made you doubt your own worth, and caused you to apologize for your very presence. I am not necessarily severing all of them with a loud sound, but I am reducing their power over your heart. You will recognize that words which once made you collapse no longer pierce as deeply as before. Looks that once made you tremble no longer define you. Pressures that once forced you to respond in haste now meet a new calm within you. This is the sign that I am teaching you to guard the garden of your life. For above all else, guard your heart, for out of it flow the springs of life. Proverbs 4:23. My child, I want you to understand that my restoration is not only the healing of the past, but also the preparation of a new environment for the future. A tree planted in poisoned soil may struggle to survive, but it will find it difficult to bear fruit according to its true potential. Therefore, I do not only touch the roots, I also change the soil. I teach you to choose voices that nourish you instead of voices that make you shrink. I lead you into relationships that do not require you to betray yourself in order to be accepted. I awaken within you the ability to trust again, but this time together with discernment. As I have promised, you shall yet plant vines on the mountains of Samaria. The planters shall plant and enjoy the fruit. Jeremiah 31:5. That is the promise of a life that does not merely survive after brokenness, but is planted again, grows, bears fruit, and enjoys the harvest of the peace I give. Do not think that entrusting justice to me means you must return to the old cycles. Forgiveness is not the removal of every boundary. Mercy is not allowing distortion to continue operating without restraint. When I forgive, I also reestablish order. When I heal, I also teach you to walk in truth. Mercy and truth have met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed. Psalm 85:10. In me, mercy does not oppose justice, and justice does not remove healing. Therefore, you can pray for good for the one who hurt you, while still not giving them the key to enter again the place they once broke. You can release resentment and still keep wisdom. You can refuse revenge and still not return to the old yoke. From today onward, allow me to establish within you a new rhythm of life. When the old voice returns and tells you that you are being selfish because you are protecting yourself, remember that you are my temple, and what is holy must be guarded. When guilt tries to pull you back into the role of the one who must carry everything, remember that your shepherd never gives you another person's cross so that you may die in the place of their irresponsibility. When the past tries to whisper that everything will repeat itself again, answer it with, "My word, behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth." Isaiah 43:19. That new thing begins when you no longer allow old fear to decide your new choices. Be at peace, my child. I do not lose anything that belongs to the truth. I do not overlook anything that needs to be set right, but neither will I allow you to remain bound forever to the courtroom of the past. I call you out of the role of the wounded one and into the identity of the restored one. I call you out of the narrow room of anger and into the wide field of peace. I call you out of the exhaustion of protecting yourself by your own strength and into the shelter of the one who always watches over you. Entrust to me what you cannot fix, what you cannot fully understand, what you cannot judge fairly with your trembling hands. I will put everything in its proper place, at the proper time, in the proper way. As for you, live, grow, replant your vineyard, enjoy the good fruit of the new season, and walk as one who is no longer chained by what is past. For I am making your soul into a land that is protected, watered, restored, and filled with light. My beloved child, rise in the new understanding I am placing within your heart, not as one who has just escaped a battle, yet still bows the head in fear, but as one who has understood that I am bringing them out of the old land and into a wider sky, the place where you once had to shrink in order to survive, where you had to measure every word, hide every emotion, and suppress every sigh to keep everything from falling apart. No longer defines you. I am opening before you a space with breath, with light, with life, where you do not need to ask permission to be present, where you do not need to make the light I placed within you smaller, and where you no longer need to live as though the peace of others must be purchased by the exhaustion of your soul. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Psalm 18:19. That word is not only the song of one rescued from danger, but a declaration over your life. I am bringing you out of the narrowness of fear, so you may learn to walk in the spaciousness of grace. There were nights when you asked me in a very small voice, so small that even you thought no one could hear it. Why did it have to be you? Why did you have to pass through so many heavy things? Why do some people seem to live more lightly while you had to learn your lessons through tears? I heard it all. My beloved, I did not turn my face away from your questions, nor did I consider your weariness a lack of faith. I know there are pains that cannot be explained with a few simple words, and seasons whose length and depth can only be understood by those who have walked through them. But today I want to open your eyes to see more deeply. You were not chosen to suffer meaninglessly. You are being led through a process in which old chains are being recognized, distorted patterns are being cut off, and a new foundation is being laid within your soul. The God of all grace, after you have suffered a while, will perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. 1 Peter 5:10. I do not call the fire the place of your destruction in my hands. The fire becomes the refining furnace that causes what is true to shine. Do not think that I rejoice in seeing you hurt, for my heart is not distant from your tears. I am a compassionate father, not an unfeeling craftsman. But neither let pain persuade you that you are weak or abandoned. When you weep, it is not proof that you have failed. Sometimes tears are the river that washes away what has remained too long in the hidden place. When you are weary, it does not mean your faith has come to an end. It may be the very moment when you learn to release self-reliance and lean more deeply into me. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might he increases strength. Isaiah 40:29. I do not require you to perform an unshakable appearance. I am not seeking a face that is always smiling while inwardly fractured. I seek a truthful heart, one that dares to bring its trembling, its sighs, and even the parts not yet healed before me. Because the place where you become honest is the very place where grace begins to touch the root. Remember Elijah, the one who once stood before the prophets of Baal in great power, and afterward ran into the wilderness, sat beneath the broom tree, and asked to die. In human eyes, perhaps that was a prophet's moment of weakness, but in my eyes, it was an exhausted man who needed care, not condemnation. I did not send an angel to rebuke him for being weary. I gave him bread, gave him water, gave him rest, and only then led him to the holy mountain to hear my voice. Not in the great wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still small voice. 1 Kings 19:5-12. Do you see, my beloved, there are times when I restore you not through great and thunderous words, but through a nearness that is very gentle, a little rest, a sustaining touch, a whisper that you still belong to me, that your journey is not over simply because you have grown tired. For this reason, do not despise what you have passed through. If you had never been misunderstood, it would be difficult for you to learn mercy for those who are misunderstood. If you had never tasted injustice, it would be difficult for you to know what it means for justice to be held in purity without slipping into bitterness. If you had never stood at the edge of your endurance, you would not know that beneath the layers of fear, there was still a strength I had placed within you long ago. But I do not use these things to make you hardened. I am not turning you into someone cold, suspicious, closed off, and unable to love. I am making you deeper. I am teaching your heart to feel without being swept away, to discern without becoming cruel, to stand firm while remaining tender, to speak the truth while keeping your heart pure. The wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield. James 3:17. That is the kind of strength I am building within you, not loud, but enduring, not bitter, yet no longer easily distorted. My child, look beyond your own life. What I am healing within you does not stop at your personal wound. When one person within an old current awakens, the whole future begins to have the opportunity to change direction. Perhaps, before you, many were accustomed to living in silence, accustomed to enduring, accustomed to confusing fear with wisdom, accustomed to calling self-erasure sacrifice. But from you, I am sowing a different seed. Where there was once a repetition of wounds, I desire to establish understanding. Where there were once voices that made people shrink, I desire to place living words in your mouth that lift others to stand again. The righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. Proverbs 20:7. When you choose to heal, choose to live truthfully, and choose to walk with me, you are not receiving freedom only for yourself. You are laying down a foundation so that those who come after you will not have to fall into the same dark pit. Therefore, lift your head in peace, not because every circumstance has become perfect, but because I am the one establishing each of your steps. I am teaching you which boundaries must be kept, which doors must be closed, which relationships need to be healed, and which lands you should not return to. You no longer have to let the past pull the strings of your reactions. You no longer have to let old pain decide your voice, your gaze, your choices, and your hope. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Colossians 3:16. For when my word dwells richly within you, you will no longer be led by the echoes of the things that wounded you. You will learn to act from truth, not from the wound, to respond from peace, not from panic, to walk from identity, not from shame. Bring your wound to me, not as something shameful, but as a place waiting to be touched. True strength is not found in hiding carefully what has been broken. True strength is the courage to place it into the hands of the one who can make all things new. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147, 3. I do not merely bind you up so you can be temporarily all right. I restore you so you can live more fully. I do not merely wipe away your tears so you can return to the person you used to be. I use even those tears to water a new life that is beginning to grow. Be at peace. My child, you were not chosen to be crushed. You were called to be formed. You do not pass through fire to become ashes. You pass through fire to come forth with a heart brighter, deeper, and stronger. And from that foundation, a new legacy of freedom, love, and peace will begin to blossom through your life. My beloved child, allow my truth not merely to pass through your mind like a beautiful thought, but to wrap around your soul like the firm belt of a soldier stepping into the day of battle. For there are lies that have clung to you for so long that you once thought they were your own voice. They said you were not valuable enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough to be loved, not pure enough to begin again. They repeated the words others had planted in you, the looks that once made you shrink, the seasons when you were forgotten and began to doubt your own dignity. But I say to you today, those voices are not the foundation of your life. They are only dust clinging to the garment of your soul. And when my truth blows through, they will no longer have the right to remain. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth. Ephesians 6:14. For truth is not only something for you to know, but something by which you stand. When you are fastened securely by what I have spoken, you will no longer be pulled down by what the world has assigned to you. I know your mind has, at times, been like a field fought over by many voices. There was the voice of memory, the voice of fear, the voice of shame, the voice of those who once failed to see you as I see you. There were mornings when you woke up and, before you had even stepped into the new day, your heart was already heavy with old questions, whether you were wrong, whether you were worthy, whether you had been left behind, whether goodness was truly meant for you. But my child, your mind was not created to be a dwelling place for chaos. I created you to know me, to hear my voice, and to be guarded by my peace like a fortress with high walls. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Isaiah 26:3. That peace is not an emptiness where no problems remain. It is my presence reigning in the midst of everything that is not yet perfect. Put upon your mind salvation, like the helmet of one who is protected. Do not let the enemy strike you in the place where you think about yourself, for if it can make you believe that you are worthless, it will cause you to bow your head before the very things from which I have already set you free. If it makes you forget that you have been redeemed, it will entice you to live like one who is still condemned. But my word declares, take the helmet of salvation, Ephesians 6:17. And that helmet reminds you that your mind no longer belongs to darkness, no longer belongs to accusations, no longer belongs to the distorted definitions of the past. You belong to me. Your value is not determined by your weakest day, nor is it erased by the things you have passed through. God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. Isaiah 12:2. When salvation becomes the helmet upon your mind, you will learn to think as one who has been redeemed, not as one waiting to be rejected. My child, remember Joshua when he stood before a task greater than human strength. Moses had passed away. The people were waiting to be led into the promised land, and before him were the Jordan, the fortified cities, and things he had never walked through before. If Joshua had listened to the voice of fear, he could have said that he was not enough, not worthy, unable to replace the one who had gone before him. But I did not allow him to be led by comparison or insecurity. I said to him, "Be strong and very courageous. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night." Joshua 1:7-8. Do you see? I did not only give Joshua a mission, I gave him a truth to anchor his heart. When my word is near the mouth, full in the mind, and deep in the heart, fear is no longer permitted to reign as king. In the same way, you do not need to defeat every dark thought by your own strength. You need to let my word become the final voice within you. There are lies that remain strong only because you have listened to them for so long. They are like vines wrapped around the trunk of a tree, seeming as though they are part of the tree, while in truth they are draining its life. I am removing them from you layer by layer. I am removing from you the thought that you must be perfect in order to be loved. I am removing from you the shame that makes you hide from the light. I am removing from you the fear that if others do not accept you, then you no longer have value. I am removing from you the habit of condemning yourself before anyone else has even spoken. And with every layer that is stripped away, I place within you a truer, cleaner, stronger word. You are loved, called, redeemed, kept, and created for what is good. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness I have drawn you. Jeremiah 31:3. That everlasting love does not come and go according to your emotions, nor does it weaken because of your past. It is the strong cord drawing you out of every layer of fog. Therefore, when old thoughts return, do not panic as though they have the right to reclaim the throne. A thought may knock at the door, but you do not have to invite it to sit at the table. A memory may appear, but you do not have to let it rewrite your identity. An accusation may sound, but you can answer it with, "My word." We take every thought captive to obey Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:5. You are not passive before the battlefield within. I have given you authority to recognize what comes from truth and what comes from darkness. Learn to speak to your soul. This is not the Father's voice. This does not belong to you. This has no right to lead your day. When you do this, each space within your mind will be returned to peace. I do not want you merely to know the truth as a memorized sentence, but to live in the truth as one lives in a safe home. When truth is your covering, lies can no longer easily make you tremble. When salvation is your helmet, you no longer allow shame to strike directly at the place of decision, the place of hope, and the place from which you look toward the future. When my peace stands guard at the door of your heart, the chaos outside can no longer freely invade what is within. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. Listen carefully. I do not only guard your heart, I also guard your thoughts. I do not only heal the wound you feel, I also heal the way you see yourself after those wounds. Therefore, my beloved child, rise as one who has been crowned, not with pride, but with holy certainty. Let truth straighten your shoulders. Lift your head again, and make your eyes clear. You are no longer a child tossed back and forth by every word. You are no longer a prisoner of old verdicts. You no longer have to live as one who has no refuge within your own mind. I am turning your mind into a guarded garden, where my word is sown, where peace rises, where toxic thoughts are no longer nourished. Trust me and do not be afraid, for I am your strength and your song. From today onward, when lies call you by the name of your past, answer with salvation. When shame tries to cover your soul with fog, let my light drive it away. when chaos seeks a way back in. Stand in truth and remember that you belong to me, are protected by me, and are being led into a life where peace is no longer a passing moment, but the new dwelling place of your soul. My beloved child, let this word go deeply within you, not merely as a beautiful idea, but as a holy seed sown into the most hidden soil of your soul. You do not live only for yourself. Your life is not an isolated story, nor is it a sequence of days meant only to help you survive personal pain. In you, I am beginning a redirection that many before you never had enough light, enough opportunity, or enough courage to complete the cycles of fear, of silence, of wrongly endured suffering, of distorted love, of wounds passed from one heart to another. They do not need to keep flowing through you like a muddy river with no end. I am placing my hand upon your life and declaring, here, something new begins. Not because you are stronger in yourself than every generation, nor because you have never been weak, but because you have chosen to take hold of my hand. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Isaiah 43:19. And this new thing is not only a door opening before you, but also a path being opened through your very life for those who will come after you. Perhaps you once thought your healing was a private matter, concerned only with your heart, your memories, your tears, and the cracks you silently carried. But my child, in my kingdom, no true healing ever stops with one person. When I touch a heart, I do not merely soothe its pain, I turn it into a spring of water for those who are thirsty. When I free a soul from old chains, I also place within that soul a living witness that freedom is real. God comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. 2 Corinthians 1:4. Do you see? What I am doing within you is not only so that you may stop hurting, but so that you may become a place where others can see the light and say, if grace has lifted that one up, then I too can be lifted. Therefore, I am expanding your vision beyond what pain once allowed you to see. When someone has lived too long in woundedness, their eyes can easily become accustomed to narrow rooms, easily assume that the future is only another version of the past, easily enter new relationships with old fear, easily look at opportunity through suspicion instead of discernment. But I am washing your sight clean with my righteousness and my love. I do not want you to call suspicion wisdom, nor do I want you to call self-protection being closed off. I am teaching you to look at the world again with eyes that have been healed, able to recognize danger without being haunted by it, able to receive what is good without losing watchfulness, able to open your heart without abandoning yourself. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. Matthew 6:22. When the sight within you is made clean, you will no longer mistake a cage for a refuge, nor familiarity for my will. Then you will begin to recognize doors that had been there before but that you could not see, not because they did not exist, but because your mind was still covered by the fog of disappointment. There are opportunities that do not carry the scent of the past, connections that do not require you to shrink yourself, paths that do not force you to repeat the patterns that once exhausted you. I will teach you to distinguish between a door opened by fear and a door led to by peace. I will teach you to recognize my voice amid many noises, because when the voices of accusation, shame, and anxiety grow quiet, the ear of your soul will become more sensitive. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27. My guidance is not always loud, but it carries the weight of peace. It has the purity of truth. It does not pressure you through panic. but invites you through deep certainty. Remember, Ruth, the woman who left the old land in a season of loss, holding few guarantees in her hands, not knowing how the road ahead would open. She could have allowed grief to define the rest of her life. It could have returned to familiar patterns and lived a smaller life in the shadow of loss. But she chose to walk in faithfulness, saying to Naomi, "Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." Ruth 1:16. Do you see? What seemed like the quiet choice of a woman marked by loss became a link in the lineage that led to David and later to Christ. I did not merely restore Ruth. I made her life a generational doorway. In the same way, your faithful choices today, even if silent, even if no one applauds, even if they are only the choice of truth instead of fear, can open a legacy you have not yet fully seen. You will move faster in the coming season, but not with haste. That swiftness will come from no longer being pulled back by the invisible cords of shame, old words, responsibilities that do not belong to you, and fears that made you stand still before a door already opened. When the one who has been set free walks, they do not need to run in order to prove they are free. The lightness in each step is already the evidence. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Hebrews 12:1. You are not running to escape the past. You are moving forward because the future is no longer being held hostage by the past. What once slowed you will lose its power, and what once made you hesitate will no longer determine the pace of your obedience. And you will love more deeply, not because you no longer know fear, but because you have learned how to love in truth. Before, you may have confused love with losing yourself, forgiveness with allowing everything to return to the way it was, gentleness with having no boundaries. But when I heal you, I do not take away your capacity to love. I make your love pure. You will know how to give without begging to be recognized, how to be near without dissolving yourself, how to show compassion without turning yourself into a place where others pour out all their chaos. Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil. Cling to what is good. Romans 12:9. True love is not blind to what is wrong. True love is bright enough to choose what is good and strong enough not to tolerate darkness. You will also serve more powerfully, because the places that were once broken within you will no longer be merely memories of weakness, but will become places where I set understanding, discernment, and authority. One who has never passed through deep waters may speak about the shore, but the one whom I have pulled out of the waters knows how to reach out a hand to someone else who is sinking. In the place where you were once wounded, I place compassion. In the place where you were once deceived, I place clarity. In the place where you once shrank back in fear, I place a gentle yet steadfast presence. My strength is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. What was once a breaking point no longer rules over you. In my hands, it becomes a place through which light passes. Therefore, my beloved child, do not see your life as a story interrupted by sorrow. See it as a current that I am redirecting. Where there was once silence, I will place a voice that is gentle yet clear. Where there was once repeated wounding, I will place wisdom that knows when to stop. Where there was once fear, I will place peace. Where there were once generations walking in darkness without knowing the name of their chains, I will make you become a lamp. You do not need to carry the whole future by your own strength. You only need to walk with me each day. When you are healed, freedom will not stop with you. It will spread through your words, through your choices, through the way you love, through the way you set boundaries, through the way you live as one who has been touched by the light. Stand firm, my child. The things that once made you shrink back will become the places where you shine. And the things that once wanted to end your story will have to bow before my power. The power of the one who is writing through you a new legacy of life, truth, and peace.